Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story: President Trump sharing a major announcement while addressing a joint session of Congress. Reciprocal tariffs are coming.
April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in. And whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them.
The U.S. is prepared for war. That's the word from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth hours after a Beijing spokesperson threatened the U.S.
We're prepared. Those who long for peace must prepare for war.
And satellite images show China could be building a huge military center underneath West Beijing. Analysts say it could protect senior communist leaders from nuclear strikes. Military experts from the U.S. and Taiwan break it down. President Trump addressing a joint session of Congress for the first time since returning to the White House. He covered a wide range of accomplishments and goals, from cracking down on illegal immigration to providing relief to working families. He also had a warning for major trade partners, China, Mexico, and Canada. Reciprocal tariffs are coming soon.
April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in. And whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them. That's reciprocal, back and forth.
Trump pledged to use the tariffs to make other countries trade fairly with America.
On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them. And South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea. But that's what happens. This is happening by friend and foe.
This comes after Trump imposed 25% tariffs on both Canada and Mexico. He also raised the tariff rate on China from 10 to 20% on top of existing levies on the country's goods. Beijing retaliated with 10 to 15% tariffs on American agricultural products, including chicken, wheat, corn, soybeans, and dairy products. Trump also announced he would revive U.S. shipbuilding to counter China's military.
To boost our defense industrial base, we are also going to resurrect the American shipbuilding industry, including commercial shipbuilding and military shipbuilding.
China operates the world's largest navy, outpacing the U.S. on number of warships. China also controls half of global shipbuilding, while American shipyards are in decline. The U.S. went from building 70 ships per year in 1975 to just 5 ships annually now. Trump also mentioned his administration would reclaim the Panama Canal, which he says China has quietly taken control of. The waterway is a vital trade route for the U.S., with roughly 40% of all American container vessels passing through it every year.
My administration will be reclaiming the Panama Canal, and we've already started doing it. We didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
Investment giant BlackRock said Wednesday it would buy 2 ports in the Panama Canal from a Hong Kong company for over $20 billion. Trump also touted recent investment deals. He said Apple's Tim Cook told him the tech giant would build plants in the U.S. instead of China. He also said the tech giant would invest over $500 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years, expanding facilities in 9 states, including Michigan, Texas, and California. Taiwan semiconductor giant TSMC also said it would invest $165 billion in chip manufacturing in the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the U.S. is prepared hours after China threatened war with the U.S. in response to the latest tariff hike on Chinese goods. Here's the Pentagon chief speaking during a Fox and Friends interview Wednesday morning. Take a listen.
This was posted by the Chinese embassy. quote, if war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight till the end. As Secretary of Defense, how do you take that?
Well, we're prepared. Those who long for peace must prepare for war. That's why we're rebuilding our military. That's why we're reestablishing deterrence and the warrior ethos, is because we live in a dangerous world with powerful, ascendant countries with very different ideologies. You mentioned defense spending. They're rapidly increasing their defense spending. Modern technology. They want to supplant the United States. If we want to deter war with the Chinese or others, we have to be strong. And that president understands peace comes through strength. He also has a great relationship with that gentleman right there, too, Xi Jinping. So where we can partner, where we can cooperate to recognize that we don't want war with China, we don't seek that war, we will. And the president has sought historic peace and historic opportunities. But my job as the Secretary of Defense is to make sure we're ready. We need the defense spending, the capabilities, the weapons, and the posture in the Indo-Pacific, which is something we're very much focused on.
President Trump raised tariffs on all Chinese goods to 20% on Tuesday, on top of existing levies on certain products. According to the latest data from 2023, exports make up roughly 19% of China's GDP. Data released by Statista shows nearly 15% of Chinese exports last year were shipped to the U.S. Another update on the Chinese Communist Party. The regime announced a plan to increase defense spending by more than 7% this year. The jump comes as it continues to challenge actions by Washington and its Asian allies to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific. Watch.
The rate is the same as last year, but far below the double-digit percentage increase of the years prior, a sign that China's reeling economy has not kept up with the regime's ambitions. China's military spending remains the second largest in the world, right behind the U.S., though China already has the world's largest navy. The Chinese regime has been upping its aggression in recent years. In the South China Sea, Beijing's Coast Guard ships have rammed into Filipino boats. To the east, the Chinese Navy has been staging drills near Taiwan, sending ships into waters near Japan. In the Pacific, Chinese and Russian bombers were in a joint patrol in the airspace near Alaska in 2024.
Is China preparing for war? Satellite images reveal a large construction site in western Beijing. The Financial Times first reported on the matter, saying it could serve as a huge command center for the Chinese military during a war. The facility is estimated to be 10 times larger than the Pentagon. And it seems to be preparing for a worst-case scenario, a nuclear strike. We tapped American and Taiwanese military experts to learn more about these satellite images.
This construction site is huge, about 1,500 acres. That's the equivalent of 130 of New York City's Times Square. Rennie Barbiards served as an imagery analyst for the Pentagon. His analysis of the image suggests that there were at least 100 cranes on site for the large underground project. Kervin Alcoin, a former lead ISR coordinator for the U.S. Army, echoed similar findings.
So we're seeing concrete pillars that are going deep into the ground. We can see that through penetrating LiDAR. And what you see right in the center there with these large concrete pillars is what could be used as underground bunkers that would protect people from a possible nuclear attack.
Taipei-based military analyst Su Ziyun is the director of the Division of Defense Strategy at the Taiwanese think tank. He sheds light on the geographic features of where the construction site is located in western Beijing.
If the purpose is ecological restoration, there would likely be more forests, or the vegetation would be more prominent. However, if the area is not open to the public, features large concrete structures, and has a cave or tunnel entrance on the northern hillside, then it is very likely being used for military purposes. Since it is a limestone terrain, if it were converted into a large underground air defense shelter, whether as an underground command center or a storage site for important equipment, it would indeed be capable of withstanding a nuclear attack.
According to the Arms Control Association, the U.S. currently possesses more than 5,200 warheads. China now has roughly 600 nuclear warheads. The Pentagon estimates that China will have over 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030. As for what Beijing's new facility could be used for,
If the new underground facility in southwestern Beijing is as large as reported, 10 times the size of the Pentagon, then it is very likely intended to accommodate key personnel. That's similar to what the United States did during the Cold War. The U.S. built many large-scale shelters, including those designed to house members of Congress so they could continue legislative sessions, as well as facilities for the president's office and various government departments. This would indicate that China is preparing for a potential nuclear war, which in itself is a significant signal. For Western countries, this would mean they must respond to the political deterrence effect created by China's rapid nuclear expansion. Essentially, China is sending a political message that it is prepared and not afraid of engaging in a nuclear conflict.
Kervin Alcoin also holds similar views regarding the deep underground facility.
To have that low underground and then that fortified tells me that there will be a command and control structure built underground that high-ranking officials will go to in any sort of wartime scenario. The one that I usually talk about is the invasion of Taiwan, and then if the U.S. goes to defend Taiwan, this site is going to be targeted. It absolutely will be targeted. It's getting really close to being able to be up and running by at least the year 2026. Now, we don't know. We just don't at what point this is going to be completed. But it looks to me by the summer of 2026, this location could be operational.
According to the Financial Times, there were signs at the site directing people not to photograph the site or fly drones nearby. The construction scars reportedly warned people to not approach the site, but refused to disclose what was being built. Flora Hua, NTD News.
President Trump's pick for Undersecretary of Defense Elbridge Colby could soon serve as a top Pentagon official, but first he had to face an intense Senate hearing. Here's more on that.
Elbridge Colby has advised on foreign policy and national security for the last 2 decades. On Tuesday, President Trump's pick for Undersecretary of Defense for Policy faced questions from the Senate Armed Services Committee. Colby's nomination comes with some apprehension in the Senate, especially after he earlier indicated the U.S. needs to shift focus from Europe and the Middle East to China. Before the hearing, Senator Tom Cotton said he intended to find out if Colby was aligned with Trump on foreign policy. Cotton said Colby had once expressed the view that it would be dangerous to try and use force to stop Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, something Cotton said was not aligned with Trump's policies. At Tuesday's hearing, Cotton asked Colby if he would advise Trump to strike Iran to prevent a nuclear weapons breakout. Colby said the option remained open.
I wouldn't want to get ahead of the president on specific decisions, but I think those are the kinds of things that should be absolutely part of this, the discussion. And if I were confirmed, those would certainly be the kinds of things that I would raise for the consideration of the Secretary and ultimately the president.
On Europe, Colby said he supported Trump's call for NATO members to up their defense spending.
I believe that the NATO alliance has been an exceptionally successful alliance, but I think if we're going to sustain it, it needs to move in the direction that President Trump is leading it in, and where I think the Europeans are finally moving.
He defended Trump's efforts to negotiate a settlement between Russia and Ukraine. When asked whether the war in Ukraine is the result of Russian aggression, Colby declined to comment, saying he didn't want to disrupt negotiations. Colby told the Senate committee it was important for the U.S. to pick its battles, and to him that means keeping an eye on China.
We have to have the military capabilities in Asia or relevant to Asia to be able to conduct a local defense of Taiwan at a cost and level of risk that the American people are prepared to tolerate.
He said Taiwan is a core interest for the U.S. because it would keep China in check in the region. Colby advocated for increasing the capacity of the U.S. military, saying the Biden-era defense strategy has not prepared the military to fight a war on multiple fronts.
And what I fear is if we don't have a realistic plan, that the worst could happen and we could find ourselves in the worst possible outcome, like losing a war.
Colby said he would work with Defense Department specialists to improve weapons procurement and that he fully supports Trump's executive order to overhaul America's missile defense network. In other military news, the U.S. Air Force says recruitment has surged to a 15-year high. In a post on X, Air Force Chief of Staff General David Alvin said there were 13,000 recruits in the USAF's delayed entry program. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called these numbers amazing, saying Americans are excited to serve their country again.
Coming up, the Justice Department just charged a dozen Chinese cyber actors and intelligence officials. They're accused of espionage attacks against U.S. government agencies, news organizations, and even a faith group. We have the details. A closer look at Chinese medical devices in American hospitals. Could they be sending sensitive data back to Beijing? A backdoor just found inside a popular device. And details on a new Chinese aircraft carrier that could be ready for action. Satellite images suggest it might be capable of taking on the largest carrier in the U.S. Navy. That's coming up. Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Breaking news from the Justice Department. The DOJ just unsealed indictments charging 12 Chinese nationals. The Wednesday statement accuses them of participating in Beijing-backed espionage activities. Among those charged, Chinese hackers and Chinese intelligence officials.
And a joint effort by the Justice Department, State Department, FBI, Treasury, and Naval Criminal Investigative Service. The State Department announced a reward of up to $2 million for information leading to the arrest or conviction of 2 of the Chinese nationals. The Treasury sanctioned one of the Chinese data brokers and a Shanghai-based company. The government has taken control of all of his U.S. properties and interests. According to the DOJ press release, victims of these Chinese hacking operations include a New York-based newspaper that publishes critics of the Chinese Communist Party, a religious group based in the U.S., and several U.S. governmental agencies, such as the Intelligence Agency under the Pentagon and the Commerce Department. Several Asian countries' foreign ministries are among the targets. We'll keep you posted as the case develops.
Chinese medical devices are used in hospitals all over the U.S., and now they're raising concerns over privacy and security. A backdoor was found in a popular device earlier this year. Here's the story.
Concerns arise over Chinese medical devices found at hospitals throughout the United States, popular because they're cheap, widely available, and useful, but may contain backdoors that could give access and control to China.
Why we allow any technology inside of our borders, inside of any free world borders, is beyond me.
Counterintelligence expert Casey Fleming says he believes all Chinese technology is weaponized to send your data to the Chinese Communist Party and weaken the United States.
The Chinese Communist Party has been at war with the U.S., has listed the U.S. as their primary enemy, and they're at war every day, every hour, against the United States.
Government agencies recently found a backdoor in a popular Chinese medical device, the Contact CMS 8000 patient monitor. It tracks a patient's vital signs like heart rate, blood pressure, and temperature. The agencies say the backdoor could allow Chinese actors to access and change data and even control the device. For example, it could be made to indicate the patient's heart is failing when it's not, leading to unnecessary treatment. The American Hospital Association estimates there may be thousands of these devices in the U.S. Contech, headquartered in Qinhuangdao, China, has not commented.
Next, let's pivot to another round of findings from satellite images, this time revealing that China could be building another massive aircraft carrier. Imagery analysts say this carrier might have the ability to contend with the biggest carrier in the U.S. naval fleet. The satellite image was captured in December 2023 in a shipyard located in the northern Chinese city of Dalian in Liaoning province. The image showed a large vessel under construction. Several imagery analysts told NBC News that the vessel appears to have 4 catapults for launching fighter jets. The latest carrier China launched, named the Fujian, is only capable of launching 3 fighter jets. A spokesperson at the Chinese embassy in Washington declined to comment on the new design. If this comes true, this Chinese supercarrier could rival the U.S. Navy's most advanced and largest supercarrier. Currently, the U.S. Navy owns 11 supercarriers. Zooming out, the development comes as the Trump administration seeks to end the war in Europe and shift focus toward the Indo-Pacific, especially to counter the threats posed by Communist China. The Chinese Communist Party is kicking off its most important political meeting of the year in Beijing under the shadow of U.S. tariffs. And the head of the CCP, Xi Jinping, committed extra money to boost the economy Wednesday.
China will now issue some $179 billion in special bonds to lift growth. That includes money to subsidize purchases of electric vehicles, appliances, and other goods. Premier Li Qiang said the country faced increasing external pressures. Since coming to power in January, US President Donald Trump has added 20% to existing tariffs on Chinese goods.
China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them.
And economists bet there could be more to come. China on Tuesday shot back with its own duties on US exports, and the mounting trade war has put pressure on Beijing to take new stimulus measures. China also faces headwinds including weak household spending and a debt-laden property sector. Since the pandemic, China has bet on what it calls new productive forces, pouring money into things like advanced manufacturing. But economists have urged Beijing to do more to reduce the country's dependence on exports. On Wednesday, Li said the government would take steps to boost household spending, currently far below the global average. However, he offered no timeline for the measures.
Harry Murphy-Cruz, head of China and Australia economics at global credit agency Moody's, said in a BBC interview that if the tariffs linger, Chinese exports to the U.S. could drop by a quarter to a third. He added tariffs are set to deliver a 1-2 punch to China's economy, landing blows to both exports and investments. That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.